Chapter 2. Roosevelt Dam, Arizona, 1924. Early settings. On May 24, 1924, the spirit and flesh that were to be Lafayette Glen Pew entered into the state of mortality. I was born, as Nephi expressed, of goodly parents, whose lives have been devoted to their children. One cannot ask for more. It was in Grandpa Horn's house that I was born that day in May. Dad, Mother, and my older sister Virginia, just 2, were living at Roosevelt Dam in 1924. Dad worked as a lineman for the Water Users Association. There is little that can be remembered of the ensuing 5 years. Even pictures shown do not stir actual memories of those years. Of the events that were told and retold many times by my parents, only a few can be recalled. There was that day, as a toddler, that a centipede came a most curious object to investigate, and I was about to pick it up when someone suddenly dashed to the rescue. Then there was the day I had a tasty meal of castor beans. Castor beans are a thistle-type plant with large poisonous beans. There was some concern that I might even die from the unusual diet. I was very sick for some time. It is interesting to note also that the castor bean is the source from which castor oil is made. Life at Roosevelt Dam was not one of luxury in the beginning. We lived first in a tent along the shore of the Salt River. Virginia, being 2 years of age, presented a problem for Mother with the river so near at hand. But the river was not the only source of concern. Polecats, or skunks if you prefer, seemed to have a fondness for the same camping site. As many as 7 were shot by my father in a single evening. Of course, this too had its ramifications, as our campsite would have to be moved each time an attack of skunks was made. Arizona is infested with such things as poisonous snakes, Gila monsters, lizards, and many poisonous insects. The scorpion is listed among the insects of least appeal. There are many varieties of scorpions. The sting from some are deadly, while others are only annoying. So many times were Virginia and I stung during infancy and early childhood, we developed a great immunity to the poison. One of the more common home remedies for scorpion sting was salt and vinegar. The mixture was taken internally. Whether it really helped or not is still questionable, but we did manage to survive. I grew fond of vinegar and rather looked forward to drinking it. Home remedies that today would be of questionable value were common enough then, and even necessary. Survival was a more personal task. Doctors were not so numerous and rarely found living in some of the localities of my youth. Whether Roosevelt Dam claimed one or not, I don't remember, but it would seem somewhat doubtful. This might have weighed heavily on Mother's decision to go to Mesa to give birth to me. Of the home remedies I recall, castor oil was the most dreaded. Its still modern approval as a laxative was only one of my uses 30 years ago. Then it was a sure cure for stomachache, coughs, sneezes, head colds, aches and pains of unknown origin, and a general cure-all when other things failed. Castor oil was administered straight from the bottle in a tablespoon, as well as with other liquid dilutions. The more popular mix was orange juice. Even today I sometimes detect a faint taste of the oily cure, all in pure orange juice. I doubt that the taste will ever be forgotten. Mustard plasters, salt and vinegar, baking soda, and pine oil were common household medicines. With the addition of numerous patent medicines, the survival kit was complete. Today such remedies would seem crude and to be used only by the naive and superstitious. It seems that with our modern complex society, we have also advanced into complex illnesses. Or possibly we have learned the complexity of what at one time seemed a common simple ailment. 2. Fisher Creek Canyon. Human susceptibility to some things seem forever unchanged. Car sickness afflicts us now as it did years ago. Instead of using terms such as car sick, seasick, and airsick, we generalize and say motion sickness. Whatever you call it, it still inflicts a dreaded feeling of nausea. The long trip between Mesa and Roosevelt Dam usually brought with it a motion sickness. The long journey, something less than 100 miles, seemed an eternity of mountain and canyon roads. Deadly old Fisher Creek Canyon was the breaking point of those weak of stomach. It was a narrow, winding road of hairpin turns as it forged its way down into the canyon. The hazy vision of Grandmother Horn walking down the winding road to avoid the discomforts of riding is still embedded in my log of memories. Grandmother was not always alone in her rocky stroll. Generally there were others who preferred to accompany her. Nearly all the roads then were dirt with gravel, or just plain dirt, and ill-serviced. Occasionally a road grader would scrape the surface with its broad steel blade and fill in the ruts and holes caused by rain and wear. The loose dirt still rose thick around you as you sped merrily down the highways. A fast-moving auto, moving 30 miles an hour, could be detected miles away from the cloud of dust it stirred up. They were happy days. Each passing mile was a new adventure. Even cactus and sagebrush held a strange fascination then. To a child, it's as though he were exploring new frontiers. Out in the middle of the vast, uncharted desert, nearly 10 miles from Mesa, was the dividing line between civilization and the wilderness. It was called Florence Junction. At Florence Junction, one must stop and make sure his needed supplies are all in order before continuing on. The small zoo located there was a special delight for children. It was here that I must have seen for the first time a playful monkey and a baby brown bear. My journey through childhood had begun.